Member of the United Nations has the capacity to organize and participate in the United Nations activities under the umbrella of UN Women, which annually organizes an event deliberately on issues relating to women. As we are all aware, there is need to constantly address issues pertaining to the health and total well-being of women. The topic, digital technology for female empowerment, is very apt, considering the role that digital technology plays. It is the state of the art in every form of life. Women must not be left out. Women occupy key positions in the family, government, corporate bodies, industry, markets, to mention a few. Hence, we must all break all the gender gaps. This year, in Nigeria, we have decided to look inwards as we choose our resource persons locally. We have erudite speakers to address the various topics, such as Professor Nike Oshofison, the first female professor in IT in Africa, Dr. Funmilola OLAOLORUN, Dr. Zainab KWARU, Professor Omosivie, MADUKA, in the West, Northeast, who have done a lot of work on women, children in the communities. I therefore look forward to their participation in today's special webinar and panel session as they share their wealth of experience. It is also pertinent to mention that your presence is a testimony of the perception of the importance of the digital technology. Let us all resolve to promote Tech a Woman, that is, technologically advance a woman strategy. Charity begins at home, so says the age-long adage. Let us all adopt Tech a Woman. At this juncture, I recognize the organizers of the UN CSW parallel session, the various partners, and everybody present. We appreciate you all as we reminisce on all the gains of Beijing Convention and the like. Together, we would all surmount all obstacles in the path of success to improve the health and well-being of women, children, and our communities, if we do not give up. Finally, once again, I wish to recognize my international president, Dr. Eleanor Wadinobi, all our founding mothers, all our seniors, all our partners, all our beneficiaries who are online as well. I wish to say thank you all for your attention. Remember, Tech a Woman. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam National President Eleanor Wadinobi, to give us opening remark. Thank you. Kindly unmute yourself, ma. You are muted. Yes, we are able to hear you now.
United Nations, New York, from the CSW 67. Esteemed founder, board of trustees, seniors, and members of the Medical Women's Association of Nigeria. I congratulate you for this parallel session and the great theme, harnessing digital technology for female empowerment. Empowerment my heart at that. The other day I was at a panel, a parallel session, and I ended with a quote which I will start with today. Empowerment is crucial, especially for our women. And the quote goes like this. I give credit to Heather Ibrahim Leathers. And she said, do not give women fish. Do not the lake of fish. End of. As we just, that is something that we need to take on board. That in the field of digital technology, we want our women, especially female physicians, to own the whole digital technology. Having said that, because our physical spaces were locked down. So it's not that we should talk about the good of the pandemic, but the opportunity that the pandemic afforded us to expand virtual spaces. When we couldn't see or touch our loved ones, our friends, our families, our constituencies, we were able to, that was an opportunity that came out of the pandemic. In the same vein, as physicians, the space of telemedicine opened up enormously, even to the very physical areas of mental health. Mental health sessions were few and far between, and they were mostly physical. But even mental health was conducted in innovative and strategic ways so that humanity could access mental health assistance. But it's not all good when it comes to the tech and virtual space. I had the opportunity yesterday at the General Assembly to be at the Secretary General's Town Hall meeting. And the Secretary General informed us that the patriarchal structures are perpetrating the biases. Violence is. We know about cyber harassment and cyber bullying, and the violence needs to stop. Speaking about violence, there should be zero tolerance for our women and girls when they work in tech spaces, in the world of work, and in the virtual spaces. I would like to end this goodwill message by thanking our erudite speakers who have been lined up for us today, to thank our indefatigable national president for bringing together the members, the panelists, our seniors in what looks to be a truly rewarding session. I wish you all the best and would like to remind you of the MWIA triennial theme that says, one humanity, health solutions through our partnerships. Because we are one humanity, and I enjoin us to bring health solutions in our daily work, in our daily endeavors, but not going it alone. Let's be co-creators and let's be co-elevators. As we elevate ourselves, let's elevate one another, especially our young members. Here is wishing you all the very best, and God bless. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Eleanor Wadinobi, International President, Medical Women International Association. Thank you very much for your goodwill message. At this time, I would like to invite the chair of Medical Women Association Scientific Committee, Professor Folashade OMOKHODION, to kindly introduce this session. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, colleagues and guests from across the world. I stand on existing protocol to recognize all of you and to thank you for coming to this presentation. I want to especially recognize Dr. Elinor Wadinobi, Medical Women International President, and all our state presidents in Nigeria and other officers of the Medical Women's Association across the world. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to the Medical Women Association of Nigeria Symposium at the occasion of the 67th session of the Commission on the Status of Women. This program is holding virtually with live streaming from Ibadan, Nigeria, which is the Secretariat of MWAN currently. The session is fashioned after the theme of CSW 67, Harnessing Digital Technology for Female Empowerment. This theme resonates with us at MWAN as we seek to uplift the status of women in Nigeria. And we realize that digital technology is a useful tool to keep abreast with developments in the world and participate in the information exchange and skills transfer that would enhance the capacity of women to make them more productive. We have chosen 4 topics on this theme as follows. The first is digital technology for female empowerment of rural women and girls in Nigeria. The second is digital technology for reproductive health education for women and girls. The third is surmounting the challenges of girl-child education in rural areas. And the fourth is stakeholder engagement to enhance the use of digital technology for women and girls. I'm sure you will agree with me that these topics address the key issues when we talk of harnessing the digital technology for our women and girls and for empowerment. For this session, we have brought together experts who will do justice to the topics, and they will be introduced later on. My hope is that by the end of this symposium, we will have a communique. We will definitely have a communique for action to attain the goal of harnessing digital technology. And we want to ensure that this is not just a talk shop, but that this symposium and the discussion that will follow will generate action points which will be pursued by the Medical Women Association of Nigeria. I therefore invite you to please relax and enjoy the presentations. The symposium promises to be an enlightening and thought-provoking session. Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Professor OMOKHODION, the Chair Scientific Committee of the Medical Women Association of Nigeria. We have 4 speakers, as earlier alluded to by Professor OMOKHODION. Now, I will go on to read the profile of our speakers for today. The lead speaker is Professor Mrs. Adekemi Funmilola OLAOLORUN. She graduated with 2nd class upper division in computer science from the University of Ife, now Obafemi Awolowo University, in 1976. She obtained a master's in science, in computer science, and she's a PhD holder in computer science from our alma mater, Obafemi Awolowo University, to become the first Nigerian woman to hold a PhD degree in computer science. Professor Oshofison was the chairman of Computer Professional Registration Council of Nigeria. She has been the recipient of many national and international prizes for development of IT in Africa. Professor Oshofison is a devout Christian and is married to Emeritus Professor Femi Oshofison. The marriage is blessed with children and grandchildren. Professor Oshofison will be speaking on the topic, Digital Technology for Female Empowerment of Rural Women and Girls in Nigeria. The next speaker will be Dr. Funmilola OLAOLORUN, who is a community health physician with a PhD in public health from Johns Hopkins University in the US. She teaches and supervises research of medical and postgraduate public health students in her current role as senior lecturer in the Reproductive and Family Health Unit of the Department of Community Medicine at the College of Medicine, University of Ibadan, Nigeria. Our research is focused on women's health across the life course. More specifically, she has conducted research in Nigeria in areas such as family planning, fertility desires, household decision-making, and a host of others. She will be speaking on the title, Digital Technology for Reproductive Health Education for Women and Girls. The third speaker is Dr. Zainab KWARU Muhammad Idris. Dr. Muhammad Idris is a consultant, public health specialist, lecturer, and project coordinator, Kaduna State Accelerating Nutrition Results in Nigeria, ARIN projects. She is a trainer, a researcher, gender and health management expert, and facilitator for various bodies, groups, and institutions, including multi-sector strategic policy and operational plan development initiatives at different levels. She has contributed to establishment and strengthening of key health agencies in some northwest Nigerian states, and she's been a member of various governments and CSO working groups at federal and state levels. She will be third speaker, and she will be speaking on surmounting the challenges of girls' child education in rural areas. The fourth speaker is Professor Omosivie MADUKA, the Professor of Epidemiology and Public Health at the University of Port Harcourt and a consultant public health physician at the University of Port Harcourt Teaching Hospital. She is a fellow of the National Postgraduate Medical College of Nigeria, and she has a Master of Science in Public Health from the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. She is the current National Publicity Secretary of the Association of Public Health Physicians of Nigeria and the President of the Rivers State branch of the Medical Women's Association of Nigeria. Please welcome with me our speaker for today. The first speaker will be Professor Adekemi OTOLORIN. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Please kindly permit me to is this sitting on standing now because I'm sitting, to stand on existing protocol. And it's a privilege talking to eminent medical women, nationally and internationally. It is a privilege, and I thank the local organizing committee for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts with you on digital technology for female empowerment of rural women and girls in Nigeria. And like a teacher, I always like to explain the key words in my topic. The key words here are digital technology, female empowerment, rural women, and girls. And I went on to talk about digital technology, the technology that enables immense amount of information to be compressed on small storage devices that can be easily preserved and also transported. And digital technologies are electronic tools, systems, devices, and resources that generate, store, or process data. And well-known examples include the internet, social media, online games, multimedia, and mobile phones. My topic is going to be mainly on mobile phone, internet, and social media, because those are the things that are easily available in the rural area through the mobile phone. The basic forms of empowerment we have, they are social, that is, women have voice to speak and against negative or toxic aspects of their society. Economic, they have stable jobs, they have access to finance, and they can become entrepreneurs. Political, gender equality in both public and private sectors, equal opportunity in the political sphere. Then psychological, freedom to take pride in their values, whether they are orthodox, many decisions through the different societal problems. Women empowerment also helps boost women's status through literacy, education, training, and awareness creation. Women empowerment also refers to women's ability to make strategic life choices that were previously denied them. Then characteristics of women and girls in the rural areas. Most women in the rural areas, and they follow their parents and husband, whatever their parents or husband teach, that's what they follow. It's like they don't have any mind of their own. They engage mainly in farm and off-farm activities to ensure their families' food security. Even though they contribute to family farming with their labor and knowledge of agricultural practices and biodiversities, but they never get anything paid for doing so. They lack basic sanitation facilities. They have little or no education and often suffer domestic violences in silence. Digital literacy. For any person to take advantage of digital technology, that person must be digital literate. And digital technologies have the potential to give rural women and girls access to tools that can make them, that can make their jobs easy, that can make them to contribute even more widely, and their contribution will be fully felt. However, without digital literacy, rural women and girls cannot benefit from empowerment that digital technology can provide. So if we actually want to help these people, we need them to be digital literate. Without digital literacy, we are going nowhere. We will just be talking and talking and talking and talking. Digital literacy is the knowledge and skill needed to connect to navigate and use digital tools such as internet services and mobile phones especially. Because mobile phones now is now everywhere. Rural women, market women, girls, most of them now have access to mobile phones. Most of us who are even literate, we do not even use up to 10% of the facilities available on our phones. Most of us, after calling, doing texting, etc., maybe that's all we do, or use it to check our emails. But the facilities that mobile phones offer, they are lots, huge. And we need to train these women on how to make use of those facilities on their mobile phone. Mobile devices and internet access will allow rural women and girls to catch up with the current rapid advancement of technology and growth of information, and will greatly improve their digital literacy as well as their well-being. Now, the areas where digital literacy can empower rural women, I'm going to speak on agriculture, financial services, e-market, decision-making, education and training, network building and job opportunity, work and family life, and e-health. Actually, anything your mind can think about, digital literacy can empower you in anything. Anything your brain can think about, that's the limit of what you can use digital tools to do. And I said in the case of agriculture, they have access to information services that provide them with agricultural production tips and best practices, weather forecasting and other information such as how to deal with pests. These services allow them to produce greater amounts at higher quality and produce them more efficiently. These facilities allow transform agricultural intention and business development services just using their mobile phones to provide timely information to small female farmers and entrepreneurs. And for digital school, it can facilitate the sale of farm products, and you ask me how? If they are digital literate and they have a farm, they have pictures of the farm on their website and the kind of food that they produce. You will be surprised that people will come from so many places to get those products from them. Because many people prefer to get fresh food instead of buying from the market, and you don't know for how long those things have been on their tray. Then they also get information about the best insecticides to use. Then disaster relief. It's very easy for disaster relief to get to them if they have they are well connected. Then they can also have what we call early farming warning systems in case there's going to be heavy rainfall, in case there are going to be any disasters, so they can easily take care of some of the things that they have. Maybe need to bring some farm products inside instead of them to be washed. Flood control, sorry. So then, well, I spoke about agriculture. Then financial services it's now easy for them to have access to financial services. Like in the past, they have to bring a lot of collateral. Then they can have e-markets. They can have their website where they can put all the things that they sell, African jewelry, accessory, apparel, and all of those things. And people will come and buy from them instead of going through the middlemen that make most of the money from these products. Then decision making it becomes very easy for them. They can use opportunities to organize collective action and participate more fully in the decision-making process. Then education and training, all of us know that once you are connected, anything you want to learn about, you can learn on such things. And you can learn at your own pace and at any time it's convenient for you. You don't have to sit in a mortar and brick classroom to go there. Then networking, building, and job opportunities. They have access to all of those things. Even their work and family life, they can organize their work and family life together to make it easy. Then they can have access to e-health via telemedicine. They can have access to affordable medical care through virtual GP practices. And there are also some digital tools that can promote their health. For example, all the wearable technologies that we wear today that shows us our cholesterol level, our heart rate, and all those things that we can check ourselves. on those wearable technology. Then even political awareness. In the village, through the email services, through internet search, they can know who and who are standing for certain positions. And if they also wish to, they too can stand for such positions. And I also pray that one day we are allowed to do e-voting so that anybody can vote from wherever they are. And there are so many new career opportunities for rural dwellers. And I'm going to deal on one, blogger. If they have their own blogs, you know, in the rural areas, a blog on the blog site of that woman, the number of people that visit that blog will determine on how much money that woman will make. If a lot of people like the stories, those evening stories they tell, and they visit that site, when commercial people notice that the traffic on that blog is heavy, they will begin to advertise on that site. And when they begin to advertise on that site, what does that translate to? It translates to foreign exchange. That's what a lot of people don't know. Blogging makes a lot of money today. Once people are interested in what to say on your blogging site, you begin to make money. Then tourism. Most of our tourist centers, at least in Nigeria, rural women cannot take advantage of such using mobile technology. So, and I said in conclusion, digital technologies are increasingly central to education and employment. Acquiring digital skills to leverage on these technologies is needed to address many of the challenges faced by the rural women and girls. Digital skills, I also like to say one thing, even for the girls. If they know how to program, they can begin to develop apps. And when they develop apps, they can develop using their mobile phone. They don't need this big gadget to do some of those things. And those are given to international companies right from the village, and they will make money, a lot of money from there. So there are a lot of things where women groups can assist them to make sure that they become digital literate so they can help themselves and they don't have to wait for their husband to give them money, and they can even make foreign exchange and contribute to the national GDP. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, Professor Adekemi OTOLORIN. Our next speaker is Dr. Funmilola OLAOLORUN, and she'll be speaking on digital technology for reproductive health education for women and girls.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Funmilola OLAOLORUN, and I teach in the Department of Community Medicine in the College of Medicine, University of Ibadan in Nigeria. Today we'll be talking about digital technology for reproductive health education for women and girls. By way of an outline, I will start with an introduction, a few definitions, and answer the so what question. And then I'll talk about perspectives from the literature. I'll give a couple of practical examples, and then I'll conclude. The word digital comes from Latin digitus, or finger, and refers to one of the oldest tools for counting, the finger. Digital technology refers to electronic devices that function through a binary computational code, such as mobile phones, tablets, laptops, computers, and they're used to collect, process, analyze, transmit, receive, and store information. Another important term for today's conversation is reproductive health, which is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity in all matters related to the reproductive system and to its functions and processes. Sexual health is part of reproductive health, but a lot of literature refers to both of them together as sexual and reproductive health. There are 5 main domains of sexual and reproductive health as described by Colombian, and colleagues, and these help us to understand the scope of sexual and reproductive health, and thus the scope of what comprehensive reproductive health education would cover. These domains include safe and pleasurable sexual life, fertility regulation, avoiding unwanted births, healthy childbearing, maintenance of a healthy reproductive system, and then, of course, the society and culture, the bigger picture. During our conversation today, the populations of interest would include adolescents who are 10 to 19 years, young women who are 15 to 24, and women of reproductive age who are 15 to 49. And these three groups definitely overlap, as you can see. So to answer the question, so what? What's the relevance of digital technology for reproductive health education for women and girls? It's as part of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The fifth Sustainable Development Goal focuses on achieving gender equality and empowering all women and girls. Digital technology is one important strategy that can be used to improve the health of women and girls by ensuring they're well informed of the tactics used by traffickers, for instance, so they can protect themselves. Digital technology can be used to ensure women and girls have access to sexual and reproductive health information, including self-care options, and where and how to access services. Thus, digital technology used to deliver reproductive health education can improve use of modern contraception and provide women and girls with crucial information that they need to make health-promoting and life-saving decisions. In addition, SDG Target 3.7 says by 2030, to ensure universal access to sexual and reproductive health care services, including services for family planning, information, and education, and the integration of reproductive health services into national strategies and programs. So this topic is very relevant because it's part of the global conversation, and it's quite prominent in the Sustainable Development Goals. So that was just a very brief introduction. Now I'd like to talk about some of the perspectives from literature. The available body of literature suggests that adolescents and young women are deficient in reproductive health knowledge. I'll just give 3 examples. In France, there was a prospective multi-center controlled study in 2018-2019, Service Sanitaire, and peer educators were able to help to improve the sexual and reproductive health knowledge of the participants, significantly more than those who were participating in a classic education program. A second example is from India. In India, as well as in many other parts of the world, reproductive health education forms part of the school curriculum, both at the primary and secondary level. And in India in particular, it's integrated into multiple subjects, into science, biology, sports, health education. But research suggests that the information in some of the textbooks that they use are incomplete, inadequate, and they're not even based on the current body of scientific knowledge. Sometimes they're not even age appropriate. And this in itself adds to the deficiency in reproductive health knowledge among adolescents and young women. The third example is from South Africa. There was a study among pregnant adolescents, and they found that their knowledge of preterm labor, anemia, alcohol and tobacco use, and sexually transmitted infections was quite limited. And in fact, the authors of this paper suggested digital platforms for delivery of reproductive health education to adolescents. This deficit in knowledge is of concern because knowledge is essential in facilitating access to healthcare services, access to self-care options, and overall autonomy in managing one's own health. First, you have to know that there are available solutions. Then you can seek these out. A variety of interventions have been shown to improve reproductive health knowledge, but the delivery modes matter. While Generation X, that's women born between 1965 and 1980, may be content with the traditional ways of conveying reproductive health information, Generations Y and Z, those are women born between 1981 and 2010, will be more likely to respond to digital technology. Reproductive health education may come through peers, through the school curriculum, both of which I've mentioned, but it could also be community-based, and it can be received through mass media or through social media. Now I'd like to give a couple of practical examples. And these examples show how digital technology has been used to convey reproductive health education to women and girls. The first example is an online antenatal education for new parents, and this is delivered by Nourish Baby in Australia. And the components include a guide to a healthy pregnancy, guide to a positive labor and birth, guide to feeding success, and guide to babies birth to 12 months. The modalities for this particular intervention include providing written information for those attending the online antenatal course. Also, there are video clips and links to additional resources. A second example is the massive open online course run by Women's Health Research Institute and Northwestern University. The title of the course is Introduction to Reproduction, and it just provides biological foundations of reproductive health to a global community, whoever is interested in enrolling for the course. In this case, there are lectures, there are animations, there are three-dimensional anatomical illustrations, all to engage the audience. Now I'd like to share perspectives from participants. In literature that's available, participants have expressed their desire to have control over the content of whatever course they're taking with respect to reproductive health. So they'd like to be able to skip introductory modules, for instance, if they already have some prior knowledge. Participants express that they'd like to fast forward, they'd like to play back, generally have control, and be able to pace themselves over the course. They've also expressed that the content should be accessible, it should be easy to navigate, and it should be very flexible. I'll share a couple of quotes from one of the mixed method studies that was conducted that showed what participants really felt and how they experienced the course. One woman said, "It was easy to do bits here and there when time allowed," showing the flexibility of the course for her. Another woman, when referring to the videos in the course, said, "When people speak the information to me, I can remember much more." So she was expressing her learning style. Reproductive health education helps to empower women so they can make informed decisions. And when they make informed decisions, it also helps them to feel a sense of control, and they have better agency. Whatever knowledge they gain from these courses, not only do they use for themselves, but sometimes as carers, they use this knowledge to provide healthcare advice for other people. Participants, however, have expressed some concerns because of the fact that, especially among adolescents, some of them do not have access to their own phones. And in low and middle income countries, sometimes electricity is a problem and they're not able to even charge their phone or other device that they're using to obtain reproductive health education. There are problems with internet connectivity. Those of us who live in low and middle income countries understand this very well. And sometimes when adolescents get really involved with their phones, it has a negative impact on their school performance. And so these are some of the concerns that participants have voiced. I'd like to wrap up by sharing the perspectives of one researcher, stressing the importance of adult learning principles when rolling out reproductive health education interventions. Adult learners are different from regular learners in primary or secondary school because they need to know what it is you're talking about. They need to have the answers to the questions why and how. They want to take control over their learning, and so their learning is self-directed. They've had many experiences, and so they themselves are a teaching resource. Many adults learn best when whatever they're learning is relevant to them, and they can see the real-world application. They want to focus on something that's relevant to them where they are in their particular context and where they are on their life course as well. And so it's really important when teaching adults to keep these principles in mind and when designing reproductive health education programs for adults. And so to conclude, digital technology is a cost-effective and ubiquitous means of delivering reproductive health education to women and girls. The benefits far outweigh the risks and concerns. Reproductive health education interventions do not need to cost much in order to institute them and to maintain them. Using digital technology to deliver reproductive health education empowers women and girls to be involved in decision-making. And access to relevant reproductive health education has the potential to improve health outcomes for women and girls. Thank you very much for your kind attention. I have some references here for you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Funmilola OLAOLORUN. At this juncture, I want to implore our participants online to kindly put their questions and comments in the chat box, because we may not be able to entertain verbal questions, oral questions. Thank you. The third speaker is Dr. Zainab KWARU, and she will be speaking on surmounting the challenges of girl-child education in rural areas. Welcome with me, Dr. Zainab KWARU Muhammad Idris.
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Moderator, and also thank you for giving me this opportunity to be part of this very epoch-making event. I would like to start by standing on already established protocol. My presentation is centered. Hello?
We can hear you loud and clear.
Yes, all was coming in to interrupt. Okay, let me continue. So I would like to start my presentation by thanking the organizers, our Medical Women Association of Nigeria, as well as our president for enabling us to make this very interesting presentations. So this is the outline of my presentation, which will guide the discussion that will ensue. As we very well know, education is a very critical instrument or tool that is considered by various nations the world over as being the crux or the foundation of any development. It would be overemphasized, especially in this modern technological area, where fast-paced advancements are recorded on a daily. We very well know that there's this very proverb that says, if you educate a boy, you're training or teaching an individual. But if you educate in the family, but the entire nation. Every girl is therefore born with the innate and inalienable ability to have education. It is her fundamental right. But unfortunately, many of these miss out on such opportunity to exercise this God-given right due to a number of structural and societal barriers. So the gender gap in education is still a pervasive issue which affects millions of girls around the globe. And access to education is quite essential for helping our girls to escape the very ravaging effects of poverty if they are to achieve their full potential. This slide is not moving. Okay, and then because the focus is on rural areas, we've heard about the importance and the critical place that our rural areas have, being the most populous and the most neglected regions that exist around the world. More than half of the world's population, and indeed more than 75% of the world's poor, reside in these rural areas and rural communities. And in most of these communities, preference and prominence is normally given to the male child for the simple reason that they are perceived to carry the family name, and that for a female child, she's expected to be someone else's responsibility in the future. So they don't consider her important enough to even be educated. Who is a female child? She is that age between the ages of 6 to 18 years. And a lot of our development, or when we talk about education, it focuses on issues that eventually are very specific to our young girls. When you talk about issues of equality, when you talk about empowerment, when you talk about enabling them to have a voice in decision-making processes, we know that the education is very paramount for this species, for human beings. Despite its importance, though, girl education, the importance of the girl child education can never be overemphasized. Even the world's most advanced countries have agreed to their advancement and development. This is a significant matter that indeed must not be ignored. The effect that higher education or lack of it has on society is very enormous. It has long also been demonstrated that educational goals that affect children's health, particularly reproductive health, has its existence in the girl child. We know, again, that education fosters innovation, it also promotes productivity, and it also fuels the democratic principles at different levels of our development. So education for girls benefits people, it benefits societies, and the entire industry that decreases inequality and poverty is the quality of education that is received. It improves the individual, but also the economic well-being of our nations. So establishing the groundwork for long-term economic growth finds its foundation in education. So to support all of these processes, it's really very critical to focus on the girl child. So what are the barriers to the education? World Bank estimated that over 60 million girls currently do not attend school. And this is simply because of the barriers that exist that are put in her path, like poverty, conflict, and discrimination. These are very numerous and not only the issues at play presently. We can look at it from different perspectives, broadly looking at the socio-cultural, the economic, geographic, as well as legal and other issues that are contextual to bedeviling the right of the child, of the girl child, to education. So some of the socio-cultural barriers, the norms, the beliefs and practices, particularly early marriages and the gender discrimination that plays out in our homes, where society view girls and women as homemakers, caregivers, rather than enabling them to pursue their academic interest. And a number of, religious beliefs can actually limit or outrightly oppose the girls' education. And these cultural norms and practices can really restrict, especially where girls are expected to take on labor-intensive tasks, such as farming, childcare, and so on within the family, rather than allowing them or enabling them to attend school or taking classes outside of their home environment. This can really be very restrictive. And then there are economic barriers, such as the economic status of the households. This constitutes one of the major factors that prevent girls from achieving their success in education, especially when they come from low-income families who cannot afford the costs that go into providing quality education. And this to high rates of our girls from school. Girls in rural areas are worst hit. They are often not accessing the quality schools, neither are the teachers available due to a number of geographical constraints that we have highlighted earlier. We have issues of distance, we have issues of not having the the means to transport themselves to school. Laws can also have been established to enable girls to access education. But then how much fund is allocated to enable these laws to function in terms of providing the materials and the facilities determines the ability to actually access education. Sometimes these funds or the resources are misapplied. This limits access of girls to education, and it also interferes with the opportunities that should be available to them out there. Then legally and also politically, there are a number of impediments which has prevented closing the gender gap where educational opportunities should exist. I think I've already mentioned the issue of geographic and infrastructure. These are two very most important barriers to girl child education. The long distances that she has to walk from home, especially in those rural areas, the lack of a befitting transportation system, and most importantly, where we have conflicts, arising as a result of so many civil unrest and various other factors leading to such conflict, can prevent a girl from accessing education. In some cases, the girls are required to work at the family farm instead of attending school. This also includes child labor and also marrying off this girl at an early age. Other contextual issues that are very, very ripe that hinder the ability of girls to access quality education, where our school environments lack the basic facilities like safe sanitation facilities. In most of our developing countries, girls are put at risk of harassment of different forms, and then the physical danger that this inadequate or lack of facilities pose. And then there's a disproportionate cost attached to this education. In some rural communities, given that a girl would require more resources, especially in terms of the menstrual hygiene needs that she has, she may deem to be too expensive to educate. So this and various other costs attached to enabling her to have the right attire, the means of transport, can hinder her from acquiring the right education. And then our unsafe learning environment. We've seen in different environments or climates where girls constitute an endangered species, especially in regions that witness conflict and in areas where gender-based violence is very rampant in the school environment. The low literacy level of parents themselves also leads to non-prioritization of a girl's child. They don't think it's important, so they feel she'd rather stay at home and become a homemaker. So coming to Nigeria, my country, there are a number of issues that we're battling with, some of which I've already mentioned in terms of the barriers that prevent girls from attending school. Before then, it is a known fact that the number of girls enrolled in primary education positively correlates with any nation's gross domestic product, and it also improves or increases life expectancy. Women who pursue education are more likely to have lifelong desires to learn new things, including the values, the attitudes, the competence and ability to contribute to nation building. So the education of girls in Nigeria also has a number of difficulties, especially those from the rural areas. Early marriage and gender discrimination, the socio-cultural norms and practices, the low purchasing power and low literacy level of parents, and then the fact that some of our rural communities are really very hard to reach and quite remote from the center, and especially where basic amenities and schooling facilities are deficient. Then the increasing acts of banditry and the kidnapping of girls. We've had schools where girls that attend these schools have been kidnapped and still kept in captivity. It's a really harrowing experience, and this has tended to frighten parents, and then has also put girls at a disadvantage because
I think you have to conclude now, please.
Yes, in the case to prevent them, to protect the girls, they are not allowed to attend school. So very quickly, how do we overcome these barriers? By creating awareness, ensuring that the financial capabilities are made available through scholarships, grants, and so on, and then ensuring that our schools are safe and secure for the girl child. So in conclusion, the educational challenges facing our girl child is quite complex and numerous. There's a need for greater investment in girl child education through collaborative efforts of all stakeholders. There's also a need to work assiduously towards ensuring that their right to education is respected and extended to all, regardless of their gender. By so doing, the foundation for a brighter future where equity, equality, and opportunities are bound for the girl child is achieved, so that her full potential is expressed and she can contribute meaningfully to nation development. Thank you for the opportunity to make this presentation. These are some of the references.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kwaru Muhammad Idris, for your presentation. Quickly, we move on to the fourth speaker, Professor Omosivie, MADUKA. Professor MADUKA, please.
So good afternoon, dear ladies, colleagues. Good morning, good evening, depending on where you're joining us from what time of the day. To us for a few minutes as we bring our conversation today to a close. So far we've heard and had conversations around, harnessing digital technology for female empowerment. We've seen what digital technology is and how it is important, especially for women and girls in the rural areas. We've looked at the role digital technology plays in reproductive health education, and we've seen some of the challenges and how they can be surmounted. My presentation is to discuss the intervention strategies and plans, and one key skill and technique that is necessary to be able to bring interventions that will enhance the use of digital technology for women and girls, and that intervention is stakeholder engagement. And so we would look at a little bit about what digital technology means, even though I guess I'll skip that because a lot has been said, but we will really go into who stakeholders are, why they matter, and what stakeholder engagement is and how it can be done. So because there's a disproportionate gap in the ownership, access, and use of digital technology between males and females, this is a no-brainer. We've been talking about this from the beginning of our conversation. There are gaps in availability and accessibility, affordability, acceptability, and accommodation of the digital technology tools. So local organizations like national organizations or even the state branch of MWAN have, a role to play to be able to come up with interventions that will help to make a difference in the use of digital technology in females, especially those females that are in hard-to-reach rural communities, and so on and so forth. But it is impossible for interventions to work, to be accepted, if you do not take notice of the stakeholders. So you might have a very broad goal, something that is futuristic, idealistic, like all female girls in a particular local government area in River State by a particular time should be able to know how to use a mobile phone. And that is utopian and it's fantastic. But you must convert that ideal and that goal to a very specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound objective with targets. And in putting that intervention together, in order to be able to achieve objectives, you need to consider working with stakeholders. So who are stakeholders? Anybody who has a stake. People who have something to gain or something to lose. People who have a say and people who will have their way. Stakeholders can be positive. People who will help, support, and make sure that your intervention for scaling up the use of digital technology among females and girls, they will make sure it happens. They will help you. They'll be in your corner. Stakeholders can be negative, and you ignore negative stakeholders at your peril, the peril of that intervention. Stakeholders can also be passive or active. If the stakeholder is for somebody working with you, or even you intervening, maybe the state or the local government authorities, parents, and so on and so forth, actually taking an active role, they are active stakeholders. Stakeholders can be passive in the sense of the people who are receiving the intervention or people who don't have much to say or do. So what is the engagement and priority a say or who have a stake in your interventions for the success of your intervention to scale up the utilization of digital technology and women. Remember, with the of people, a majority of them cannot give you consent. You cannot take interventions for them by just directly. You will need to go through parents, caregivers, and other stakeholders. So even more so among this demography of people, stakeholder mapping is critical. Identification just says list all the different groups, organizations, and people that have a stake in the project. Have a sit down, a brainstorming or collaboration session with your team and come up with the names. Think as far and wide. And you need people who are critical thinkers, analytical thinkers, come up with from joining analyze the stakeholders, understand their perspective and their interests. Sometimes in order to analyze them properly, you need to have informal who know them to be able to know, okay, this is how these people in this community, they think that using mobile phone is a taboo for girls. Girls should be here or there and have no business with education, talk less of mobile phones. Map these stakeholders so you visualize their relationships and how they will impact on your objectives at the stakeholders. Prioritize. You cannot interact with all stakeholders at the same time. So you must put a priority list of who they are and how you want to interact with them. And then, of course, when you're talking about engagement, there are certain things that you need to have in mind. Engagement simply means you're going to go and interact with stakeholders, either to present the idea, the concept of the intervention that you have and the objectives you want to gain their buy-in and their trust, and let them give you the social license to be able to implement some of the interventions that you have in mind, your organization has in mind. And then, of course, maybe give them feedback as the intervention is going on. You need stakeholders at the beginning, at the middle, at the end, all throughout the lifespan of your intervention. And there are some principles that you need to have at the back of your mind in engaging stakeholders. You need to understand them, and you need to ensure that they understand the process, the intervention. You need to consult multiple times and communicate adequately. Anticipate that not all stakeholders will behave in a way that you will expect. Not all stakeholders, so a stakeholder can be supporting you right now and then in a few days turn around and say has no business with this because somebody has influenced us here or there. Take responsibility. Feels good, we need to compromise. So you wanted to move the intervention to scale up the use of digital technology in a certain direction, and the stakeholders called the meeting and said you cannot do this. So you have to think about what is there a compromise? Instead of giving each person, each girl a mobile phone, is there something else we can do that is close to? Can we bring mobile technology into the school system first and then make them comfortable in school before we talk about each person owning one for themselves? And there are other things like that can help you with compromise. Involve all your stakeholders as much as possible and involve your team in interacting with the stakeholders. And of course, anything you did not measure, you didn't do. You need to keep measuring how you are interacting with your stakeholders and whether that is helping you get to your goal. And so in conclusion, stakeholder engagement is a planned collaborative activity. It identifies, involves, and works with stakeholders to achieve enhanced access to digital technology, because that's the context in which we're discussing that. Planned interventions to enhance the use of digital technology are only successful if stakeholders are managed properly. The whole idea of this presentation is for you to think about as a state association or national body, what interventions can we really do to put our feet on the ground and put some action, what stakeholders that we will need to manage, and what are the skills that we will need to manage the stakeholders. I hope you found it very useful. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, Professor Omosivie MADUKA, for that brilliant presentation and for keeping to time. It's a question and answer session now. I'm looking at the chat box. There are no questions in there, but we have distinguished members of MWAN who are online, including the National President-elect, Professor Rosemary Ogu. I don't know if you have some comments or questions. Professor Adenike Grange, our first female Minister of Health. Kindly unmute yourself and speak to the microphone. Professor Adenike Grange, first.
I'm able to unmute now. Good morning from here. I just want to commend the speakers who have done a wonderful job on this topic. It's a topic that continues. I mean, it started many years ago, and it continues. Don't know for how long, for time immemorial. You know, somehow I have a feeling that just tackling the girl child alone is where we're going. Although we have to tackle them, disproportionately. However, we should still have on our radar the boy child. The reason is this. Our goal really is to have both of them relate to one another in a way that the products of a relationship, the children, will be better than their parents. They will be able to appreciate the value of education better than how their parents did. So both of them have to work together. And I therefore want to suggest a paradigm shift. We should right in the center the process of parenting. Parenting by both male and female. How do we get there? How do we get the right kind of parenting? Definitely both of them must be educated. Both of them must respect each other. There's respect. Both of them must be given a space or their own space to develop. This is the kind of thing that we are trying to, the type of value we're trying to instill in the next generation. So boys and girls need to know what their roles should be, both in their relationship with one another.
Half a minute more, ma.
Okay, relationship to one another and the relationship to their children or the next generation. So that I'm going to stop here. I know I've taken you away from the direct.
Thank you very much, man.
Line
We
mail
are very grateful for your contribution. Professor Rosemary Ogu, in 1 minute, kindly unmute yourself. Thank you. I'd like to call on the national coordinator, Professor Dr. Gwemi Daramola, to give the vote of thanks. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Please go ahead, Professor Ogu. Kindly unmute yourself. There is no audio. We can't hear you at all. I think we have to do the vote of thanks at this point.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. We are time bound. Can we just quickly put on our videos for a quick, for photographs quickly in a few seconds? please put on your videos. On behalf of Medical Women Association of Nigeria, I would like to thank everyone who has made time out to be part of this symposium to mark the CSW 67 for 2023, harnessing digital technology for female empowerment. We thank our distinguished guests from within and outside Nigeria. Thank you very much. We pray that as we go on, that our women will indeed be empowered digitally. Thank you all for coming. God bless you.
Thank you very much, everyone. God bless you all. Congratulations, MWAN. Bye, everyone.
Thank you very much, everybody. As has been mentioned, we are
Thank
time-bound.
you.
We thank you for coming for this year's CSW. We look forward to seeing you next year. God bless.
I really like this because I never talk about the